Thanks, Corla. Minister, I'm delighted to hear you'll be focusing on retired people in the budget, and I'm hoping that maybe a category that you might give special attention to is women who are experiencing a discriminatory pension as a result of the marriage bar and an overhang from that situation. One of my constituents made the point recently that a colleague of hers had applied to pay the property tax to have it deducted from her pension, but she was told she couldn't do that because her income couldn't be brought below €188, and yet this woman is expected to live on a pension of €150 because she can't access a full state pension as a result of the marriage bar.
Thank you.
Well, the marriage bar is a term which is used to describe a rule that existed in most of the public service and also in some private sector employments where women were expected to leave their employment upon marriage. The bar was removed when Ireland joined the European Community, or the European Economic Community, the EEC as it was called, in 1973. Where such employees were in the public service, they paid a modified rate of PRSI. These contributions provided no cover for the state pension, and accordingly the marriage bar would not have impacted on state pension entitlement. It may have, however, impacted upon their eventual entitlement to a public service pension, which is really a matter for the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform. The state pension contributory is based on the PRSI contributions paid or credited by the person over their working life, and the level of entitlement depends on their yearly average number of contributions. From 1994, and I was the Minister, together with Minister Michael Woods, who brought this in, because I was Minister of State in this department then. A homemaker scheme was introduced where time out of the workforce to care for children or people with a disability can be disregarded for the purposes of calculating that yearly average. Where someone over 66 does not qualify for a full state contributory pension, and I would say this to you, Deputy, they may apply for a non-contributory pension, which is based on need and is means tested. The maximum rate of this pension is €219 weekly. Where it is more beneficial for the complainant, for the person who is making the claim, they may instead seek, for instance, an increase in the qualified adult payment based on their spouse's state pension contributory, the maximum rate of which is €206.30. This increase is by default paid directly to the qualified adult. Supplementary welfare allowance is a means-tested payment. Any person aged 66 or over is entitled to make a claim for the means-tested state pension non-contributory. The pension is in the first instance paid at a higher weekly rate than the supplementary welfare allowance. It's €219 a week rather than €186. And the means test for the pension is considerably less onerous than that which applies for the SWA. So that means that regardless of their circumstances, someone eligible to apply for the state pension non-contributory should receive significantly more than they would if they claimed SWA.
Deputy Daly.
Bit of a minefield there for someone to untangle, but I mean, this person had put the case that the pension that she was expected to survive on was €150 a week. Now the Minister is clearly saying 66. I think that is something that we will explore. The point that was being made was that there were potentially certain anomalies in the system. While welcoming, obviously, the homemaker scheme, which you introduced in '94, she made the point that only covered, it excluded people like herself who had to give up their jobs prior to 1973. and that there was an anomaly in the scheme, the way in which PRSI contributions were worked out. I believe that requirements to get a full contributory pension is that you've got to accumulate 500 full PRSI contributions and have worked 10 years before commencing the age of 55. This person claims that she meets both of those criteria, but that the Department of Social Protection averaged the contributions over a 47-year period, which meant that in actual fact, had she never worked prior to her marriage and only worked post-1998, which she did, she would get the full whack, but in actual fact, because she worked prior to her marriage, she's been discriminated against, and I think that is certainly an anomaly that I haven't heard answered, but I hear your point about accessing other revenue potentially somewhere else.
Well, as I said, the marriage bar was done away with when Ireland joined the European Union, when a whole range of measures around equality came into law in Ireland. And Ireland has this quite generous homemakers credit, which, as I said, I was involved in introducing way back in 1994. So in this particular lady's circumstances, what I would say to you is she is entitled to apply for a non-contributory pension, and if in fact you look for an assessment of what would be her best way of maximising what she's receiving, that could be, as I say, a non-contributory pension, which at €219 a week is a significant payment. Or if the lady has a spouse, she could look to get the payment related to the qualified adult. So, and again, that's not as high as a full non-contributory weekly pension in her own right. It's a slightly lower rate if, say, her spouse or partner is already claiming a full pension. So I think maybe to go and talk to somebody in the local social welfare office, look at the history and see, would she be in a better position if she claimed under a different heading.
Thank you.
That can be done, but nonetheless the point remains, if it is the case that this discrimination is there, and that if she'd never worked prior to the marriage bar and had commenced work in 1998, which she did, she'd be entitled to a full pension. I think that anomaly needs to be addressed in any case.
I mean, the issue here, as you know, people are aware from other questions, is that the cost would be a very significant annual cost, and we don't as yet have the resources as a country to be in a position to fund what it would actually cost.